I am the CEO of Advanced Roof Solutions. We have three internal employees, in-house employees, and we employ anywhere from 4 to 5 roofing crews per day. The CEO role is something that I kind of always struggled with. I identify as a roofer. I've been installing shingles by hand for 22 years. I have primarily been out in the field. I have run crews. I have shingled roofs by myself. So stepping into the business role was, if I'm being honest with myself, was probably intimidating. I didn't want to leave a area of the business that I was particularly good at to take on this new venture as someone responsible for an entire business that does multiple millions in revenue a year. Before we started working together, the company as a whole was just a bunch of different people doing singular jobs and not collaborating at all. Because of that, there ended up being a lot of overlap. People didn't know where their job started and ended, and there ended up being things being missed. That was because there was no one steering the ship. There was no one at the helm defining jobs and making sure that all of those areas were covered appropriately, both fully covered and not over covered. Clarity in roles allowed me to great accountability in the business. The biggest role that I clarified was probably our bookkeepers, who had been given secretarial work, bookkeeping work. Other people just dumped things on her plate because hers was the first office when you walked in the door. So other people would ask her to answer their emails or do their measurements, and other people had her doing their homework. And when I clarified her role to her, as well as everyone around her, her job satisfaction has gone through the roof. We were able to make her hours a little bit better for her schedule as well, because she wasn't spending her days doing other people's homework. It was tough to find someone because there's a million Facebook gurus that claim to be business coaches or leadership coaches or whatever. You can find whatever coaching you want. When my friend Carl mentioned your name and your approach to this coaching, I thought that it would be a good fit, and then we met, and I knew we were on the same page. Accountability, probably first and foremost. We talked about a specific issue I was having at the time. We came up with a plan, and I knew that by the time I came back the following week or 2 weeks later, I was going to have some sort of result. I knew that I was going to have to sit down with you and tell you that I executed this plan and how it went from there. So accountability was probably the number one. And actually beyond that, with a lot of the knowledge that I gained, it gave me a lot of confidence to go and do those things. But my personality profile, it explained a lot. It really opened my eyes to the things that I excel at, the things that I don't excel at. Now, that being said, I'm not in a space yet where I can just not do the things I don't excel at. But it is given me the awareness that when I'm doing something that is not necessarily my forte, I don't want to say I'm not as hard on myself. I'm still hard on myself, but I also know that this is something that I'm going to have to work a little bit harder at this, and that's okay. But being self-aware of the things that don't fall into my strength has been important. It's allowed me to interact with people a lot better too. I found, and you would have seen this in my first 360 interview, that there was times where I was unnecessarily emotional, and I would take that out on the team. Learning that about myself and when those sorts of things are going to happen. Again, it's the self-awareness. Like we're in business. I can't avoid things I don't like. But being self-aware around those things, that's what that really did for me. Really changed the entire direction of my business. It's closed the doors that need to be closed. It's opened some other doors. 2024 is going to go down as a year. That first difficult conversation that I had was what sparked it all. It allowed me to step into a space to really course correct a problem that has been going on for a very long time. That I didn't realize the problem, but getting into that conversation, that's what sparked it. It is going to go down as the single most important thing that happened to me in business. Getting to difficult conversations immediately is, I think, the best thing that can possibly happen to a team, because avoiding difficult conversations, which I've done for a long time, it just allows problems under the surface to fester. And being able to engage in difficult conversations right away is the quickest cure to any sort of, half of difficult conversations are about misunderstandings, and being able to get to a misunderstanding before it becomes like a conflict that's game changing. The team trusts me. They're trusting me with their careers, and we're making some bold moves right now. And my core team they're down for it. And it's taking a lot of trust on their part. I would recommend it because I personally liked your background. I like the fact that your background was a therapist as well. I knew it could be vulnerable, and this program requires vulnerability. Like if you can't talk about like where you're coming from and your weaknesses, you're not going to grow. And I definitely found as soon as we started conversing, I was able to be vulnerable, and that is where we were able. Like if I couldn't admit to you that I can't have hard conversations, you never would have been like, get out there and have that hard conversation. Your approach was very welcoming. The program was very custom, which, I'm sure you can coach all kinds of people, but I find as a man, it's hard to find areas where we can be vulnerable and feel safe. I liked the system. I learned a lot about myself in that system, and that was a very big tool that we were able to use to assess, to see where we're at, to see what we need to work on. For me, the work was the conversations that we had. Working through the systems it shows you where you're at. And for me, I found the real world results were the working through things together.